to say something?
Yeah.
Because it's a journey that you don't want to spoil. But it is intense. So was it a difficult role to do?
Duncliffe Hill, Duncliffe Woods.
Ancient woodland. Well, one tense, I've got you.
You filming it yet?
I've got you.
Right, okay.
And
Hambledon Hill. We're not. We're at Duncliffe Hill. But this is the precursor to Hambledon Hill.
You're going to start that one again?
No, I can't be bothered. This is the start. The 4th of August, it's the same day. And Cromwell's troops have got to Duncliffe Hill here, a place thickly wooded, after seeing colours flying from the top of what we'll do is we'll go to the side and we'll start the story of what happened here on the 4th of August in 1645. We're at the bottom of Duncliffe Hill now. Now Cromwell was here with his dragoons, over 1,000 of them, and with that he sent a lieutenant with a small party of men to the top of the hill here to meet with the clubmen. Now when that lieutenant was at the top of the hill, we met Richard Newman. Now Richard Newman is the same man that spoke to Fairfax in Dorchester on the 2nd of July, but on the 4th of August he was here. Now with that, Richard Newman came down and spoke with Cromwell. And he asked about the clubmen that were taken prisoner in Shaftesbury. Cromwell replied that they had been taken under General Fairfax's authority and are to be tried judicially for raising a third party in the kingdom. Fairfax did not want to see their places plundered, and they could defend any violence that came upon them. They should also bring any grievance against them to the new model army, whereupon the culprits would be punished. The clubmen leaders taken in Shaftesbury, if found guilty, would face charges to that nature. If innocent, would be freed by Fairfax himself. And with that, Cromwell with a small party went back to the top of the hill to talk to the clubmen and assure them everything was fine, basically. And they basically went home. So at this stage in the day, everything was fine with the clubmen. Now, by the time Cromwell got to Hambledon Hill, things had taken a different direction, and that's where the bloodshed was. Well, before we got to Hambledon Hill, I just want to say a point about Shroton Church, which is behind us, St Mary's Church. The bells, at the moment, are being renovated. And now 2 of the bells date back to the 16th century. So the actual sound of those bells, which the clubmen would have been ringing at the time before Cromwell arrived here, warning of his arrival, you can still hear today, which is a nice little footnote to the Battle of Hambledon Hill.
Right, we've made it this far. Looking out over Hambledon Hill. And there's Hayden.
Well, here we are at Hambledon Hill, and it's right behind me. Now this is where the clubmen gathered on the 4th of August. There was 2,000 to 4,000 of them. What we want to do is go back to the day before that, the 3rd of August, where all the clubmen leaders, a lot of the clubmen leaders, had gathered in Shaftesbury at a place called Castle Hill. Now Fairfax had got wind of this and sent General Fleetwood with a troop of horse to arrest all of them, which he did. He surrounded all of them and took them prisoner back to Sherborne. Hence the clubmen being gathered here. They all met here on the 4th of August to march on to Sherborne to get their clubmen leaders back. But meanwhile, Cromwell got wind what was going on, and he was coming this way to meet the clubmen. So the scene was set for the battle. And behind me here is Hambledon Hill, and on the top of that hill in a defensive position now were over 2,000 to 4,000 clubmen, because they've got wind that Cromwell was arriving. Now Cromwell did arrive, and he was here at the bottom of the hill with over 1,000 dragoons. Now when Cromwell arrived here, he met a man loading his musket, and the man drew his musket on Cromwell and his troops, but he was overpowered. So that's how the day started. Now meanwhile, there was a man called Mr. Lee, who was on the top of the hill with the clubmen, who was being sent down afterwards to talk to Cromwell. And Cromwell was sending Mr. Lee back, and they were debating terms and their grievances. But this must have imploded during the day, early morning and during the day, because what was to commence afterwards was a bloody battle. Now with the talks now broke down between Cromwell and the clubmen at the top of the hill here, Cromwell decided to send a troop of horse up here under the command of Lieutenant Gladman. Now it was a show of force really, because it wasn't a major attack on the clubmen up here, but they rode up maybe this route here because this is a back way to the top of the hill. But Lieutenant Clubmen went up here and he was just shot upon, and he killed 2 of his troops, wounded 9 and killed 4 horses. So by the time they got back down the hill and seen Cromwell, Cromwell was now not in the mood to negotiate anymore but to do battle. Right, but Gladman gone back with his wounded soldiers. Cromwell was there and he wasn't in the mood to talk to the clubmen anymore, and the battle was going to commence full time. Now he sent Major Dusborough up here with a troop of dragoons on horse, and they charged up here to the clubmen, which were in a defensive position above me up here, and they must have charged up this back way because this is quite level, and any other place on Hambledon Hill is really steep, and to get horses up there would have been quite a job, and it wouldn't have been possible. Now they charged into the clubmen, which were at the top of the hill here, and Thomas Prevail was the commander. He was the leader of the clubmen as such, and he cried out to his men. He said they must stand to it now, and that rather than lose their armours he would pistol them that gave back. But they weren't disciplined troops, so they were soon scattered, and with Desborough's men going in with swords flashing and muskets blazing, a lot of them were killed. There was up to 60 killed on that day, clubmen. In Desborough's troops he lost about 4 or 5. You don't really know because there's a lot of propaganda going around at the time, and all this is written from Cromwell's side and not the clubmen's side, so he'd have put his losses at less. But that was really the end of the clubmen in battle in Dorset. The prisoners taken here was Robert Frampton, Thomas Prevail, and some of the main leaders, and they were put in the church in Shroton where we were earlier on in the series of the club in 1645, which we've been filming through the year. Hill now because it's too cold up there and we wanted to warm up, so we popped in the cricketers here, had a quick cup of coffee, sat by the fire, and we're nice and snug and warm now. But what I wanted to say when I was up there was what the clubmen were about really, and how later on in life we can relate to what they were about. And we recently came back from a debate up in London about the putting debates from 1647, and it was more about the levellers, but there was a professor there, Mark Knights, who talked from the history section of the University of Warwick, and I thought his words were quite relevant because his voice, what he said was, petition could give a voice to the grievances from the parish pump upwards, very much what the clubmen were about. Petitioning gave a voice to regions and groups as much as to the nation. Petitioning was created at the local level, representing the views of towns and counties. This gave a region a voice within the national one, and importantly it enabled the contested plurality of the voice of the people to become apparent, which relates very much to what the clubmen were about here. Petitioning refused to accept that there was one single voice or will of the people, rather it revealed many voices of the people, a plurality of legitimate viewpoints jostled with each other in the public sphere. And I think they're wise words, and we can relate to them now in localism and activism, in local issues where the state imposes things on the county, and our loss of power with local councils and our loss of our voice of say. And that's what I wanted to say really. That's how can we relate to the clubmen from then to now.